But if I want to paint, I paint. It feels necessary for me. Language doesn't come easily to me, so there's a certain amount of expression that fights its way out onto the canvas. If the time is there and the ducks fall into a row, then I have to. I started painting probably in the early 90s. I always wanted to paint. I was not given the opportunity in school. They told me I was bound for bigger and better things than art class. So my time was taken up with physics and calculus and typing instead of being in the studio. The only art classes I took in school were those that everyone had up to a certain point, whatever that is, middle school. And then beyond that, were the classes, from what I could tell, looked like they were a lot more intense and a lot more fun. I did not have those art classes. The desire was always there, and my children were making themselves busy while I was working one day, and came home with a learn to oil paint kit that they bought at a yard sale for 25 cents. And it spread from there. The outline of 2 apples was laid out, and there was instruction for shadow and reflection and highlights. And there were 3 or 4 little tubes of paint. That was painting number 1, which I don't have any longer. I started buying my own paints and brushes just as soon as those 4 little tubes of paint ran out. And I went to a local shop in Vermont and stocked up on canvases and paints, and was looking at paintbrushes with no knowledge of what to do. And a sales clerk said, if you're just starting out, don't waste money on good brushes. And that person walked off, and there was an elderly woman in the store shopping, and she said, don't listen to her, you need good brushes. And I don't know how many years we are from that point now, early 90s, and those brushes are all still my very close companions. Aptitude, I probably questioned. I questioned everything I try and do. I started sketching, which was disheartening because everything I did was tilted, and a lot of my paintings still are tilted, and I've just grown to embrace that as being part of what I put out there. But I think as my drawing ability improved, was about the same time I started painting. So the sketching kind of helped. Early on, I seem to have done a lot of landscapes and especially still lifes. And I feel like I still want to do still lifes and landscapes, but they take so much longer to paint that I sometimes, between working to earn a paycheck, there isn't as much painting time. So that probably feeds into painting abstract. Probably can complete an abstract in an hour to 3 or 4. So they're one done in one sitting thing. They're for some reason they're exhausting. I don't know if it's emotional energy. It's certainly not, physically exhausting. I've painted a landscape or a still life where I've sat for 8 hours, and that's kind of physically exhausting. You go to stand up and your joints don't want to do anything. But yeah, the abstracts are fun, but that's exhausting. Are paintings planned? Well, sometimes they have to be. A still life needs to be laid out with some care, building a triangle of components. Stepping up to the canvas after the still life's laid out, it could go in any number of directions as far as color on my palette, or as real as I can get it, or somewhat abstract. If I'm doing a still life, I don't try and copy, and I don't even know if I emulate, but Cezanne's still lifes just, really, really speak to me. So they're there in my mind. Where do my ideas come from? Sometimes I might see an image and just hold on to it, whether it's sunrise through trees, or it could be anything. Colors. And there have been 2 times where, with different results, midwinter, I needed a break from snow and painted a landscape, a hillside full of poppies and blue sky, and that was a little getaway from 3.5 feet of snow on the ground, and it wasn't any place in particular. It was just warmth and sunshine for that moment. And another cold snap, I did a landscape that's cold and moonlit, freezing. Also not any place in particular. Sometimes I am thinking something very specific. Other times I let things go where they will, and I don't think there's necessarily any thought process going on in my head other than feeling. If I paint an abstract, I don't know if I've stated this, but I always have music on. So I don't know if I'm reacting to the music, but it stimulates something that ends up on the canvas. So there might not be a concrete thought process. My style? I don't know what my style is, really. I did a self-portrait from a photograph, and everyone that sees it asks me if I still have both my ears. So I guess it's kind of in the Van Gogh style. That was not intentional. What my style is, I don't know. I guess my style is not photographic reproduction, which some people possess. If I try to copy something exactly, it very often looks more like a cartoon than what's on the table in front of me. You were asking about not having something photographic, and I don't think that I ever obtained that. And this is a little representation of, how a still life works for me, what I'm ultimately seeing. The last portrait I did was a self-portrait, and it was not a normal kind of painting. I wanted to work with an impasto style where there's a lot of paint on the canvas and you're kind of moving it around. Skin tone, I obviously was not shooting for natural skin tone. And, the green background ended up being a contrast to the skin tone. And it was kind of spur of the moment. And that's how we ended up. That was about 3 hours, maybe 4. What makes this self-portrait successful for me is I think I captured some essence of myself. Once again, it doesn't look exactly like me. Probably not. Is it me? Without a doubt, I think so. The painters that I admire, that is so hard. Probably number 1 and 2 are Jackson Pollock and Vincent van Gogh. Not necessarily in that order. After that, and not to say that anybody else is ranked any lower, but it's just so hard. Monet, Sisley, Manet, Renoir, Rembrandt. And sometimes you go to see something in particular, an exhibit or whatever, and I'll come across a painting and just get like locked in, and next thing I know, it's an hour and a half later, and I'm still standing in front of one painting that I didn't even know was there. Well, I guess I've gotten kind of lost in a Malay painting. They were a woman, husband and wife, baby. They were sowing potatoes in a field, and it just was mesmerizing. The same token, Monet, water lilies, when he was beginning to get more abstract, and there was just something about the reflective quality of the lilies on the water, even though it wasn't an actual representation of the sky reflected in his pond, but it was just wild and grabs one. How many paintings have I done over the years? I would venture to say that we're probably looking at 120, 24 of those paintings are here. I have 12 paintings hanging in a shop called Art Alive in Amherst Village. Um, it's a small craft shop with a focus on handmade local. And there are many, many paintings of mine, probably somewhere over 100, out in private collections that have been purchased, gifted to my children, wedding gifts, and they're out and about. Internal challenges, just as far as getting paint on canvas, uh, I would say just wondering sometimes, is this good enough? Is this art? Uh, Demons, I suppose, to some extent, but not that I want to compare myself to Jackson Pollock, but he has a painting called Lavender Mist. It was one of his, I think, more brilliant drip paintings. And after completing it, he asked his wife, "Is this a painting? Not is this good? Is this a painting?" Um, so perhaps that's out there with everyone. Where does painting fit into my life? Uh, in the day to day, it fits in. I kind of have to make space for it very often. And how does it fit into my life? I don't know. It seems like a pretty important part to me. Language doesn't come easily to me, so there's a certain amount of expression that finds its way out onto a canvas. If there is time, there's no struggle. I can struggle with playing the guitar. Um, I want to play it. Oh, I really want to play my guitar today, but it just doesn't happen. Um, but if I want to paint, I paint. It feels necessary for me if the time is there and the ducks fall into a row, then I have to. Sometimes looking at a painting after it's done, and very often a painting will say, you'll be working away and it'll go, hey, we're done here. We're finished. This is it. It's a wrap. But sometimes I'll step away from the easel and getting 8 or 10 feet away from a painting. I've had a pleasant experience where I go, wow, did I just do that? And that's fun. Advice that I would give to my younger self: start painting now.
Don't wait.